Unsubscribe from me right now if you don't want the real fools. Let's go.
Right wing is sneaky as hell. Yo, those guys, I'm not a left, I'm not a right. As you are, you might say a political opportunist. Not an opportunist, but I care more for the country than I care for a party, and I care for myself than I care for some lofty ideal that sounds good, that reads good on a pamphlet, but ultimately doesn't change my life. When you think politics, you have to think what's good for you and then the greater good for the people. And that's the whole point of voting. That's why you vote for yourself, right? We all get one vote. You don't vote for other people. That's not how that works, right? They vote for themselves. You vote for you. Now you can vote as a block. You can put things together, and then from there, those people can then make moves on behalf of the community, on behalf of their constituents. But ultimately, you vote for what convenes you. You vote for what suits you, for what's good for you. But you see, the left went so far left that the right, they came back in, and they were able to slip through the back door. Talking about common sense, that was the hook. That was what they used to hook people, and they dragged people in, right? And they had you thinking that being commonsensical was all that was needed. But of course, there was always the rest that was coming with it. As we see now in these days, well, we've been seeing it, but we definitely see now these days the coalescing of the right and the different strands thereof. Watching these people openly assault black people, for instance, calling them the N-word. And if you refuse to be called the N-word, they call you a soy boy. So now we're at the stage of normalizing the N-word being used against black people, but at the same time, these people who call you a soy boy will complain if they see a statue being vandalized. Now these are real tough people who complain about statues being vandalized, but want to call you the N-word. They want you to look back at a past of brutality and feel nothing of it, but they won't shut up about Black Lives Matter that took place 5-6 years ago and some statues that were vandalized. And that was wrong. You don't go around vandalizing statues and burning cities. But they want to keep going on about that. These are people who don't forget, telling you to forget, when all it ever came down to is them losing power and them being very angry and sour at the fact that they're not reproducing enough. And because they're not reproducing enough, they're blaming that on the other people, as if somehow reproducing and not being white is an act of genocide against those people. And I find that to be very, very soy boyish. Rather than just accept the fact that your women are making a conscientious effort not to reproduce, they're doing that. That's an issue that should be taken up with them. However, you're not doing that. Instead, you're sitting there and then you're blaming the black people and you're blaming other people. Now, I'll tell you, I don't speak on behalf of other people. I don't even speak on behalf of black people. I just speak from a point that allows me to map and chart the world such as I see it. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't really care much for any groupings, but I will say that it's been very curious watching these far right people just kind of blossom and bloom into that which they always were. I don't know if they thought anybody else was fooled. Some people indeed were fooled. I see a lot of black people who were fooled have egg on their face now, but for the vast majority, no. There is nowhere to go. Some people, they remain to the left. Some people went to the right, but never really followed through with the more extreme excesses of these far right people. Those that stayed in the left, they stayed there because they saw the right for what it was and wanted nothing to do with it. But you see, a lot of people have exposed themselves. They've shown their true colors. A lot of your friends that are from different ethnic groups, they've seen you, and perhaps it doesn't matter to you that you won't be taken seriously ever again. Credibility is gone. Trump has shown himself to have been captured by somebody else that isn't you, and you're finding that to be painful. It's something that leaves you feeling as if you've been betrayed. And so now you have nowhere else to go. And then you're seeing that conventional warfare isn't what is fought. Warfare for the sake of winning is what is fought, and therefore you're fighting against Iran. And again, another situation, another long time war, another endless series and sets of wars. The domino effect is going on and on and on and on. And now you're realizing that it's the same as before, and now you're crying about it because you don't have no savior. You're talking about finding somebody to do what Trump did. Trump is Trump. There ain't no another Trump. There will be probably somebody that comes through, but understand, the goodwill is spent. You galvanized yourself, you came out, you said your racist slogans, you did all of that in the name of freedom of speech, whilst downplaying critical race theory, emphasizing white replacement and Eurabia theory. And though there are points that are to be made for each and every single one of those things, critical race theory, of course, Eurabia, of course, white replacement theory, none obviously can be taken absolutely. And to the extent that an absolute can be taken, an absolute is to be taken in that which can be easily witnessed and tracked as having been instituted by the system for years and years and years. We have evidence of critical race theory. We have evidence of it. But that was swiped and wiped under the rug. The other two theories are theories that, well, the Eurabia theory is kind of obvious, but the white replacement theory, not so obvious. And yet and still, we are expected to believe that one. It's crazy. It's crazy how we're expected to believe that which can't be seen, but that which can be seen, we're not to believe. Because you've inversed everything in your heads, many of you. And then in the name of fighting on behalf of these things, you've allowed yourself to be co-opted and to be captured. In the same time, burning all of your bridges with all of the people around you as you finally took yourself out of your mother's basement and up those stairs and into the hallway and into your shoes and out of that door, and you proclaimed the word Ega, and you found your liberation and you found your freedom to no avail. The only thing you've done is stand on there on that very same porch that your great granddaddy stood on, screaming the N-word Ega at the people that walked past that were black. Nothing has changed. The only thing is you're not in a position to be able to enforce that word anymore by any plausible means. So that's what the issue is. You've exposed yourself. It's some black people, they found themselves going along with this because, again, it's goodwill, right? In good faith, you jump up, you say, I'm black, you're white, let's get together, let's try to stop this woke mind virus thing. But then what you end up doing is you end up going along with his program, this far right person's program, because ultimately he's trying to use this issue as the linchpin. He's trying to use this as the vortex through which to sap everybody else, drag everybody else into his version of what he sees the right wing to be, because everybody now wants to be their own miniature leader. Everybody's a thought leader, everybody's an opinion maker, everybody's on this YouTube doing this. I've seen this brewing from 2016 when these people first came on the internet and started trying to express themselves in real ways. The cult of personality. And all of these people popping up on YouTube and popping up on these different social media outlets trying to position themselves for leadership role. None of them has the charisma, none of them has the intellect, none of them has the intellectual chops to do what they're doing. But you find yourself sucked into that person's cult of personality. And then you find yourself being abused by that person, but thinking to yourself that it's part and parcel of that red pill. You understand that strong scent of coffee that you need in the morning. When the truth is, you're just being abused. There's nothing more curious than that. You're just being abused. You're being called the N-word, and if you refract, if you are offended by the N-word, then somehow you're the bad guy. The person calling you the N-word, he's the good guy. He's the guy standing up for freedom. He's the guy standing up for freedom of speech. He's the guy standing up for real progression. He's the guy standing up for justice, truth. And you've allowed this person to trick you out of your position and drag you by the collar into a position not too dissimilar. And understand that the only reason that you're not in that position right now is because obviously Trump didn't come up and do what they expected him to do. Had Trump come up and done what they expected him to do, you could have found yourself in a very dire situation. And these people wouldn't turn around and they wouldn't help you and they wouldn't ever go against the grain if the order of the day came back to oppressing black people. Those same people that you thought were your brothers in this right-wing struggle will now turn around and leave you straight there because ultimately they don't like you. Some of them might be obsessed with certain aspects of you as a black person, but that doesn't mean that you love or appreciate or value somebody. So I say all of that to say this, just a quick note, that a lot of you were tricked. You have eggs on you, your face, eggs all over your body, eggs all over your place, eggs all over the lobby. I mean, it's embarrassing. Now I know what certain people are in this for, and a lot of this is very, very, very strange and weird and plausible, but ultimately I'm going to say this: never trust anybody who calls you an nigger, ever. That's just basic common sense, broski. Are you going to sit there and allow somebody to call you the N-word and think that you're making progress? Knowing what that word represents. By the same token, if you talk about one of his icons, you ain't even call him a name, you just talk about one of his icons, Churchill or General Lee or something like that, he's going to be offended. These are the biggest white boys on earth, projecting their sensitivity onto you. That which they refuse to accept, they pretend that somehow they've been forced to accept, and then expect you to accept, whilst telling you that that's not what they're doing. They don't take any of your complaints as valid, but their complaints are valid. When you hold them to the standard they claim makes them superior to everybody else, their culture superior to everybody else's, they refuse. And then they go back to, well, you did it too, even though they've just said that they're superior to you. You can't be a law-abiding citizen, say that you're superior to the criminal and to the thug, and then when you get busted doing something you shouldn't be doing, you turn around and say, but the criminal and the thug is doing it too. That doesn't work that way. If you're civilized and you're superior and they're barbarians, then you are held to a higher standard than the barbarian. You don't turn around and say that the barbarian did it too. This is something that they refuse to accept. You find yourself in that position and you can't get out of there because now they won't accept you and you're going to look crazy as hell trying to go back over to that side. It's only because the blacks are so crazy on the left that having to separate from the blacks on the left, you found yourself an apatride, you found yourself with no home. So now you went over to the people on the right. But the people on the right, the black people on the right, many of them are tokens. And they can openly say what many of the white right-wing people refuse to say. Some of them do say, and the others support. But what many of them collectively are afraid still at this late stage to say, the blacks can say, you are cannon fodder, you are protection, you are shield to them. And you find yourself in that situation and you're embarrassed to be in that situation. It's crazy. So now, the only way is to keep yourself politically independent. You don't need to be on the left and you don't need to be on the right. And then of course you can be on the left, on the right, and then you can be up, left, down left, north left, south left. So you can be right, but you can be south right. So you're somebody that's on the lower tier of the right, which basically means you're conservative, but you're removed from the state apparatus. You're down there more towards the people and the grassroots movement. And left, same thing. Left, the state, that's up, or left, the grassroots, that's down. And anywhere in between. You see, this grid of politics, this political spanning, this political grid, right? Left wing, right wing, that was first articulated by the French. That is more than just left and right. A lot of you people, you can't just go from left to right. That's like going from cold to hot. You can mash yourself up in a real way. So hopefully you learned your lesson and you find that, you know what? Perhaps there's another way to do this thing. You don't need to be part of a group. And to the extent that you do, you need to do a better job of sourcing and vetting your people, man. You have this big internet thing here that you can easily use to find any number of people that align with your visions, if you even knew what your visions were to begin with. And then you wouldn't find yourself so easily misled into being abused for no reason. I'm going to be making more content about these types of people and how they have tried to claw back the power that they used to have. Some of the things that they've tried, especially in the arena of history, where they've lied, and so many other things. But I just want it to be understood that you don't have friends with people who can racially abuse you, as if it's your duty to sit there and let some punk walk up to you and call you the N-word. And if you refuse to accept that, it's because you're some kind of savage, you're some kind of vile, as if these people didn't used to jump on your black ass just for standing around. Now that's savage. And to the extent that you're savage, you copied that anti-blackness from that far right-wing element. So remember that. Anti-blackness existed in Africa, some people will say. Yeah, but it wasn't anti-blackness, it was I'm this, he's that, get him. If at all that needs to be the case, that's not anti-blackness. You're not looking at him saying, get that black so-and-so. You're looking at him thinking, get that so-and-so. Do you understand? It's proximity that allows you to be at war with somebody. I'm talking about somebody who will get up out of nowhere and just decide that they want to go and invade a country like, say, oh, I don't know, Haiti. You can't be doing that and then be trying to compare yourself to somebody that has a genuine gripe and a problem and a grievance with somebody from the same geographic location as him, bearing in mind that both of them are equal in power and they have a mutual history of dissonance. That means they both waged war against each other and they have genuine gripes against each other. As opposed to somebody looking at the color of your skin and not liking you and then trying to confection all of these reasons as to why their dislike of you is legitimate. Which is what we see over here, including pulling things out of their bum and lying about it. Now, of course, that's not to say that in Africa people don't lie. People do lie all the time in Africa. However, it's not a systematic thing and it's not widespread. We're talking about something that's systemic and global. And we're seeing this now in the wake of everything that's been going on. We're seeing it definitely much more acutely. Anyway, that's my little 2 cents on that. Like, share, subscribe.
Ayo.